Hey y'all, what's up? It's y'all favorite cozy girl, Chi the Reality Queen, and I am back again with another episode of Robe Chronicles. Tonight, we're going to be talking about Real Housewives of Potomac, Season 9, Episode 2. Okay, let's just get into it. Like, it started obviously where we left off with Mia in the bathroom crying. She was really, putting on a show in that bathroom. And I say that because I'm not convinced, okay? I'm not convinced that her tears were genuine because I just don't trust a lot of Mia's emotions anymore or her reactions. I know that's bad because I do like I say it every time and I feel like I'm trying to convince myself, but I do like Mia. I do, truthfully. But what do y'all think? Do y'all think those were real tears? Like, do you think she was maybe putting a couple of dubs on the tears to kind of, get people to feel a certain way? I don't know. But Giselle and Karen were saying, like, hey, we don't think she's a bad mother. We've seen her with her kids. We know how much she loves her children. This isn't about that. This is about protecting them. Like, yes, you're on the show. Yes, you want a storyline. Yes, you want that. But, like, to whose expense? Is that the correct term? To whose expense? To whom's expense? This is not an English class, so it doesn't matter. But I do think that, like, I agree with them. I think that shouldn't be your storyline to get ink here and G here. Like, you could have done something else. It's weird. Um, so in the last episode, it's a hatitude lunch for Karen's birthday. So in the last episode, they were giving out hats. Giselle decided whichever hats like showed their relationships and stuff. And so when she got to Wendy, she was like, our relationship has been in the bucket. So she gives her a bucket hat. And again, I know it's supposed to be a little shady, but as a girly who loves a good bucket hat, like I thought it was cute. I loved it. I was like, Wendy got the only hat that was cute and the only hat that fits on people's heads. Okay, because I don't know why. I'm like, I don't know who the hat creator is. And I don't know if all these women just all have extremely large heads. As someone with an extremely large head, I understand. But none of them hats fit nobody head. They was like sitting on the tip. Like it was not. So the bucket looked really cute and it fit. But Wendy accepted. Um, it was funny because Karen said this was not going to be the Inquisition party that they wanted it to be. And I do feel that Karen, she is good at this. She's been here since the beginning. She knows how things are. I had a big incident. Now y'all throwing me a party and all the ladies are coming. Oh, y'all trying to get me up out the paint. And she didn't let that happen. Shout out to her for not falling under the pressure because I was sure she would, but she didn't. So, that just shows that, sometimes longevity is the thing that will help you because she knew how to maneuver in that situation. They came thinking they was coming guns blazing for Karen, and Mia ended up being the one running out of the room crying. So, shout out to the Grand Dame for that one. Uh, but yeah, so then we see Ray and Karen, and they're kind of chilling, and then it goes to Mia and her kids, and I think that you know I feel like every scene with Mia and her kids always seems really sweet and genuine. So I'm not, like I said, the bad mom thing. I don't think that's true, but I do think there is an element where she's kind of like, what do I gotta do to keep the entertainment and the storyline? And that's where I'm like, maybe reel it back a little bit. Um, then we see Jizzy shows up for lunch, and she shows up for lunch with Wendy. They're going to meet. This is like the next day. And Wendy shows up and she has on this outfit with these like feathers on it, or like, I don't know what it is. I personally thought it was a very cute outfit. Now, I don't know if I could pull it off. I don't know if it's for me, but I thought it was cute. I thought Wendy looked good. I think Wendy always looks good. I'm biased, sorry. But they get to the lunch and, you know, Giselle is like, I want this to be like a real conversation, us getting to like a good place. So they have the conversation. Wendy, Giselle talks about how she doesn't like when Wendy gets angry. She gets very demeaning to people and starts to like kind of talk down. And I'm like, you know, yes, that's a characteristic Wendy does have. She absolutely gets very condescending when she's angry. But I think it's just her way of arguing. Like, not you trying to come to me. Like, we are not equals. You don't get to argue with me. And I think, you know, some people hate that, but I think it's kind of a decent way of arguing. I'm not like, because now you're all in the same situation. So you're kind of like, oh, we are equals. But Wendy is like, that's why I'm saying, like, she can't lose that professorship because that's her, like, thing. And then, she also says she received it, which I was like, okay. I think she should have because Wendy, that is how you argue. You get very, very condescending and start letting people know that they ain't nothing compared to you. They like the dust at the bottom of your shoe or whatever. Um, but yeah, so she definitely, told her. Um, but Wendy was not, you know, didn't say nothing. She had to, tell Giselle, like, I don't like how you try to alienate people and make them feel like outsiders and this and that. And, it seemed like they had a good conversation. We obviously saw a very small part of that resolution, which goes to show that production is still on the side of cleaning and making Giselle's image look really good because I feel like there were so many more things like alienating people is the final result of Giselle's behavior. Whereas I feel like Wendy being condescending is in response to people being rude and mean and coming at her. Like, I don't think, and y'all correct me if I'm wrong, put it in the comments, please. I don't think I have or remember a situation in which not Karen, Wendy started the issue and started with the condescension. Like, y'all didn't do nothing to me, but I have a problem and I'm about to come to you crazy. And then, you know, I don't think I remember a situation like that, but I do remember a lot of situations of Giselle being unnecessarily mean. And then after being mean and the people respond and they hit her back with the 1-2, she starts trying to alienate, but she caused the problem. So I don't, um, luckily, Twitter tells all. And Wendy did say that the conversation was much longer and she held, Giselle's feet to the fire a little bit more. So I definitely do think that it was a situation where production is just still trying to keep Giselle looking really, really good. Um, but then Wendy brings up that she feels that Mia was really, really hurt by the conversation. And, Giselle's like, maybe she was, but no one was questioning like her parenting. And it quickly turned into them making fun of Ink being short again. And I think it's only so noticeable because Mia is so tall and they're like, they keep trying to take these pics where Ink is like in front of her and she's behind. So you can't tell that he's so much shorter than her. And just shady shit just because they can, it's just funny. Now we see Stacy. Stacy's in her house. We get the whole like background. We meet her daughter, her au pair. She says she currently lives in the same house as her husband as they're trying to work through the divorce because they haven't told their child yet. And so they want things to be seemingly normal. And honestly, I'm pretty sure that child knows because that was not a little girl. That girl, like, she's a little girl. Sorry. She's very much a little girl, but she's not like 4 or 5. It's not like she doesn't. she speaks three languages, for Christ's sake, like German, English, and Spanish. Like, that little girl hears what's happening and what you guys are talking about. She's not like, you know what I mean? Like, maybe she doesn't comprehend it to the fullest extent, but she knows what's going on. She has ears and she knows. So I definitely think that, you know, they plan if they think that she doesn't know what's going on. Um but yeah, so she says she's working on her divorce, but I hope, fingers crossed, this isn't another Ashley situation where someone's working on their divorce for the next 3 seasons. Like, please, girl, by the end of this season, be done with that man, like, be done. Um, then we see Kiarna. She meets with Karen at her house, and it seems like they're really good friends now. And I think Kiarna just seems so genuine in her spirit. Um, and I like it. I know, ugh, gosh, I hope it's true, right? Because there's people you like and then they disappoint you. So I'm really, really hoping that Kiarna's spirit is as genuine as it comes off to be. What do y'all think about her? I mean, we know she gets a flute. She snags it at the end. What do you guys think about her? Do you think that her and Stacy are good additions? Like, how is it looking to y'all? Like, what are you guys thinking right now? I think fantastic. But we will really see what it is. Um, then she's talking about how, like, things have been good with her and she's getting ready to move in with her man. Um, they're gonna cohabitate or cohabitat, or what does she say? And she talks about how she hasn't really lived with anybody since she last lived with like her deceased fiance. Um, and she talks about how she wasn't invited to Karen's birthday. And I was like, oh, that was Giselle being shady, because Giselle was like, oh, we have to think about table space. And I guess, the way they film and tape, maybe at that point, Kiarna wasn't a shoe in for a flute and Jazzy was, because I'm like, why would Jazzy be at Karen's birthday dinner? Like, that makes zero sense. But it's because she didn't snag the flute. But if she had how she was supposed to, then it would make more sense. Who they shouldn't have brought was Jacqueline, because like, come on now, she wasn't gonna get that flute. Kiarna had a better chance, and obviously she ended up snagging it. So it's like, yeah, I don't know, that was weird. Um, but yeah, I do think that Giselle kind of flubbed on that one, because since last season, we have seen a true growth in that relationship, and I kind of like to see it. I feel like Karen loves a young girl, right? Karen loves taking a young girl under her wing as the grande dame, and building them into the woman that they should be of Potomac. And sometimes she falls out with those young women, Candace, but she's so motherly. Like, and that's the thing, because I think that's what separates her from like Charisse or Giselle, is these women are older, but they don't want to lean into that motherly instinct, because maybe they're looking at it like, oh, the girl's 30, the girl's 40 or whatever. But Karen is like, oh, you're younger than me? Let me mother you, darling. Like, I think she loves that role. And it's kind of, I kind of like it. Um, then Ashley meets up with Stacy at her house. They're gonna go take a walk. And it's so funny because I don't know. Ashley's like, "Oh, who cut your grass?" Or like she asked her if she cuts her grass, and Stacy's like, "Am I supposed to know the name of the guy who cuts my grass?" And low key, I had to think about that, because I don't know the name of the guy who cuts my grass. I don't. I don't. I know that's horrible. I'm like, is that horrible or is that regular? I'm not quite sure. So I don't know how to feel on that. Do you have to know your gardener's name? I mean, there are so many people I meet on a daily basis or interact with that I don't know their names. Okay, I think it's pretty effed up. I should know it. She should know it. We should all know it. You should know, if you're writing someone a check, you should know their name. I mean, I know it when it's time to do that, but if someone asked me on the spot, I probably wouldn't be able to give it to you. Now, if you give me a moment, I could get there. Yes, I can get there. Yes. um, but yeah, so they're talking and she's asking, Ashley's asking all the questions about, like, Stacy and her man and them living together, even though they're getting a divorce. And she's like, oh, girl, like, I know. You don't know. You don't know, okay? Because you have no intention of leaving Michael. That's why y'all was living together. You only moved out maybe because he told you, like, girl, I'm gonna start bringing other women here, or whatever, or men, or whatever he bring into the house, and that's probably why you left. But Ashley had no intention of leaving that high rise, leaving that man, or leaving that situation. So I don't even know why she's trying to judge Stacy on anything. Let Stacy not get divorced 3 years later, and then we can properly judge her too, like we judge you. But until then, hush it. Uh, but Stacy asked Ashley about her race, and this is an interesting conversation because I think we've had a lot of race conversations on Real Housewives of Potomac, but I don't think in this way, right? Because Ashley says she's like, my dad is white, my mom is black, but I grew up black. I identify as a black woman. And so Stacy asks her, well, what do your kids identify as? And Ashley goes on to say it's a little bit more difficult because they don't have some of the physical identifiers that would help her, or help them identify as black. And then also they're with their dad a lot. See, Ashley didn't have that. She only had her mom and her mom's side of the family. So everything around her culturally was black. And Stacy is kind of saying that, she wants her daughter to be proud of being black, but she knows more of her German side because her father, Stacy's husband, is a proud German and their family's very proud. And so he teaches her the language and teaches her about their culture and this and that. And honestly, I think Stacy, she made a choice. And I hope this doesn't sound bad, but I feel like, when you have children, and especially when you're having children with somebody that is of a different nationality, ethnicity, or race from you, it has to be determined very early on how you're going to raise your children, what you want them to be around, what you want them to know, who you want them to see. And it comes off like Stacy was trying to get away from that side of her history and let her kid do all, one thing, because it's like, why hasn't your kid been to Detroit? Is your family still there, or what? Like, why isn't she doing that, right? Like, what's missing in that she can't do that and she can't get that part of her that you think like she's so, just German and that's all she sees herself as. And I was like, maybe she's in private school now, maybe because she's still young, but she gonna have to grow up and her skin is not white. So unfortunately, that girl is going to be for a very rude awakening when people tell her that she's black or black adjacent, whatever it is that they decide to tell her she is, because people are mean, and I can identify as whatever. But when people look at me, if they have determined what they think I am, that is how they treat me. So I think that it gives her daughter a very unfair advantage as someone who isn't white presenting to not know and understand that blackness. So I hope that Stacey's having these conversations because it's something that she's really considering and something she's really thinking about, because like I said, the only person that loses is her daughter when she gets out there and people treat her like the black woman that she looks like or presents as. So I just hope that it's something that, she's able to kind of look into and resolve for her family and for her daughter, because I think her daughter should be very proud to be German. Like, that's her daddy, like, you know what I mean? And I think it's really cool that she speaks German. I think that's all really cool, but she don't look like your run-of-the-mill German, so she does have to factor in that piece of her being a black woman, and it's a big piece. So I hope that like I said, it's resolved. What do you guys think? I mean, I know she's a kid, but I think that's when you teach it, right? Like you get it in early so she's prepared, right? Life doesn't surprise her. Um, but yeah. Um, so then Ashley, being messy, asked Stacy about her situation. She's like, "Oh, are you dating or whatever?" And she's like, "I'm in love with someone." I don't know why that made me really like Stacy, but it was just so funny because it was so serious. Like you could tell she really meant that. She meant it. Like, you know, it was something that's like I had to get this off my chest. Your girl is in love. Like I felt like that was what she was getting at. But she was like, "Yeah, it's just different because we haven't like been with each other sexually or whatever, but we've been dating for a year. He's very religious, very Christian, I believe." And she met him because he was like interviewing for a job or whatever. And you know, they haven't done anything because he's, you know, wants to wait until they're married. And Ashley's like, "What?" She's all shocked. But it's like, girl, you probably need to slow down a bit. You know, like you might need to wait a little bit on these men that you meet. You're not used to not just jumping straight into bed with somebody. And I admire Stacy for waiting. But when they showed the guy, I don't know if he's waiting because he's religious. And that's my only thoughts on that. Anyways, um, Karen goes to Giselle's, and Jizzy makes some cookies and they chit chatting. And she said that she felt, Karen comes out and says that she felt that Jizzy was trying to be a little shady with the drink title, the Grand Dame being non alcoholic. And, can't Giselle knows what she was trying to do, so calling her out don't really hit like that. um and then Giselle tells Karen that um her and Wendy had a conversation and it went well, and she sees things like growing and prospering, which Karen is happy about. um Karen tells Giselle that Jacqueline is on timeout for her shady comment because, yes. I mean, I thought it was shady too. I heard it and instantly was like, was she trying to be shady? And like, I almost wasn't sure. Like, wait, was that shade? Was that not shade? Am I missing something? So, yes, I definitely felt it. And then, Giselle, no, Karen also tells Giselle she should have invited Kay to her dinner. And Kay is like, "Oh, I mean, Giselle's like, oh, the table space and yada, yada, yada." And she feels that Karen was being messy for telling Kay that she wasn't invited. But it's like, it's my birthday thing. If you're not inviting who I want there, then like, what's the point, right? Like, it's my birthday. It's not your birthday. It's not about who you want there. It's about who I want there. We're celebrating me. So, I think Karen was right to tell Kiana. Like, I mean, maybe it was a little messy, but it's my birthday. So if somebody I wanted wasn't there, I think I'd be a little disappointed. But yeah, so then they start talking about the GNA event that Giselle is having in honor of her father. It's like I'm not quite sure what the event is, but it's something related to GNA and it's in honor of her father. Like I feel like I watched that episode and I still am not sure what exactly the event was for. And Karen was talking about another event in which she was being honored. It was like a female empowerment group, which, in the nicest way possible, I feel like there's so many of these groups out that just honor women just because. Like, I'm not even sure at this point what the point of them is. Maybe women with money want to feel special, which I think Karen is one of those people. And it's like, okay, cool, another event to be honored at, but what are you being honored for? Why are you being honored? Like, what is the point here? I can't tell you, but they're being honored. um and but Karen is like, "Oh, it doesn't matter, Giselle. I'll be at your event. Mine is like a luncheon." Um, but I'll be there, I'll be there, I'll be there. Basically, just it don't matter. I'm gonna be there for you, Jizzy. And Jizzy's like, okay, like, okay. And it almost felt like she was trying so hard to say that because she knew she wasn't gonna be there, but she said it. The next morning after she leaves, oh, before that, Giselle talks about how she feels like she saw that event invite like previously, and Karen wasn't on it being honored. So she was kind of like, I feel like Karen asked to be honored, which is a little shade, but it's like, I think all of those events are people asking to be honored, like, sorry, I love the Grand Dame, but that's what I think those events are for. People who are just trying to inflate their ego a little bit. Like, I think a lot of these awards have no meaning anymore. But yeah, so yeah, and so the next day, the next morning, the ladies get a text from Karen inviting them all to her event and saying basically like, there will be a shuttle provided because I want everybody to be supported. So there will be a shuttle. Um, excuse me. There will be a shuttle that is provided for the ladies to go from her event to the GNA event. And I know Karen may have believed she was acting in the best interest of everybody, but it's like, after the declaration you made last night, you should have just been like, it's okay if you guys can't come to my event. If you can, make it. If you can't, don't make it. I think that would have been better. But she wanted everybody to come to her event, but it just seemed a little shady, a little weird, a little forced. But yeah, so then Jizzy saying that they get to the event and Giselle's upset. She's talking to Ashley. She's saying she don't like the fact that Karen invited everybody. She's like, honestly, they shouldn't come. They should just go to Karen's event because like this is weird, which I agree with her. It was very weird on Karen's part. Ugh, y'all have me agreeing with Giselle. Like, what has the Housewives universe come to that I am sitting here in my robe, making my Robe Chronicles and agreeing with Giselle? But you know what? I'm agreeing with her because why would you do that? That's shady. That's effed up. Even though I don't really know the purpose of Giselle's event, her event is honoring her father and has to do with that. So, regardless of whatever else, that is a part of it. And that means a lot to her. And I think that Karen should have respected that. And I think Ashley even mentioned, like, when she lost her family, like, she wanted everybody to be very respectful of that, which, you know, is true. Um, so then the GNA event starts, and Karen's friend Vivian shows up. I thought that was a little weird. I was like, wait, what is going on? Like, I feel like Vivian is trying to find her way into a flute. I don't really know Vivian. I don't, nothing about this lady, but it seems like, oh, girl trying to get her way to a flute because she knew that seats were open, glasses were empty, and she was trying to find her way. Jacqueline also showed up to the GNA event. And the reason why I say this is because that's where the filming cameras were, meaning the people who showed up there that were not like Jacqueline showed up without Mia. Vivian showed up even though Karen is her friend. And I think it's because the Housewives cameras were at the GNA event. They were not at Karen's event because Karen's event looked like it was filmed. Like when they show it, it looked like it's being filmed on someone's cell phone. You know what I mean? Like it's personal camera. So it seemed like these people, yeah, they showed up for GNA, but it's like I showed up to be seen. I didn't show up to support y'all, but whatever. So then the girls are all in the shuttle and they call Ashley, and they're like, "Oh, we're gonna get to your event by like 8:30." And Ashley's like, "The event ends at 9, so the latest you can get here is like 8." And they're like, "What?" And they're all shocked. So then they're trying to figure out like how far is Karen's event from the GNA event, and the driver is like, "It's about 24 minutes, which is far." And Wendy was like, "Look, I'm going to Karen's event. Y'all can go to Giselle and Ashley's event. I'm not going." Kiana is the same way. She's like, "I went to a GNA event before and it was ghetto. So I'm not going to no more GNA events. So I will also be at Karen's thing." So the ladies, Mia, Jazzy, and Stacy. And Stacy is like, "You guys, this isn't right. We shouldn't have done this. Like, we should have just picked one." And honestly, Stacy is very mindful of why she was invited to these events, because honestly I think she's right. Like, I don't know if maybe production encouraged them to try and do both, but I think Stacy, that was heavy on her heart. Like, Stacy, you could tell that she's not really the messy one. She not like that messiness is not in her spirit like that, because you could tell she felt bad about trying to make both of these events, like, and being late or being so late to one of the events, it was going to bother her. But you see them, they get to Karen's event, they go and they get back in the car to leave. And Wendy's like, "I didn't see Karen get the award, so I'm going to stay until she gets the award. That's why I came." Kiana felt the same way. But the other three ladies got back in the car and went to go to the GNA event. The driver says they have an ETA of exactly 8. So they think they're good because they're like, "Hey, Ashley said don't get here if you're going to be after 8. Driver says they're gonna pull up at 8." So they're like, "Okay, cool." They pull up to the event. Mia, Jazzy, and Stacy. They pull up to the event. They get there and they walk in, and Giselle's like, "Oh no, no." She was talking to somebody. She walks away. She goes over. She goes, "No, I need you guys to leave. I need you guys to leave. You better leave." And I'm like, now, this is a problem on Ashley, right? You knew the partner that you were working with did not want them to come. If they were coming anytime after the start, they didn't want them to come because you said 8, but this person didn't care. If you knew they were going to make that scene that they made, you should have called those girls back and said, "You know what? Giselle said don't do it. Just don't come." So once again, Ashley's ass causes a problem because deep down in her spirit, she enjoys being messy. And that's all we saw here was her being messy again. Because honestly, why did you give them that 8 p.m. time if you knew Giselle was going to get mad? Because that's how the episode ends, is Giselle telling them to get out, and not just get out, because get out is one thing. Baby girl called security. She said security, security. She called it on them. And honestly, I'm shocked because you call security on me, baby. I'm not talking to you again. Calling security is so intense that I would genuinely never speak to someone. Like, I just couldn't, I would never get over that. Like, I'm not saying I'm not late. I'm not saying I'm not wrong. I'm not saying, but if you think that I'm so unruly that you got to call security on me, I don't know if that's forgivable. Personally, I don't know. But what do y'all think? Do y'all think that Giselle took it too far calling security on them and telling them to leave? Do you think, I'm not saying that she's wrong in wanting them to not come because they were late, but I think that the extent that she took it after they were late, I think that's a conversation you have afterwards. Like, okay, you came late, whatever. I'm upset, but I'm upset. That's it. Like, we'll deal with this after. Like, I'll admonish you later, not here in the event. Like, I think that's so tacky and just, ugh, God. So tell me what you guys think. Let me know. Are you guys excited for episode 3? Because it seems like it's going to get a little messier. Please like, comment, subscribe, share. Tell me everything. How are you liking this season so far? And we will be back for episode 3. See you guys later. Bye.